There it is. One of the not greatest cars ever made. Yep. But it's the special expensive edition 3rd gen Camaro. So, this car was driven all the way from Cincinnati to here, 1,500 miles. And it broke down about an hour and a half from town and blew a tire. So I had to go and rescue them. And now it's here, and it runs like crap, and it has a bunch of different issues. Gauge is not working, doors doing that kind of action. You can see how the door's been opening poorly because it's completely destroyed the rocker panel cover here. So I assume this is a plastic cover that sits over the rocker panel. The interior overall is in really good shape other than the seats. The seats are the only thing that's really suffered. Other than that, I mean, even the door panels look really nice, which overall for a 3rd gen Camaro, it's really clean. The problems start right here. I haven't really done any looking into it yet, so we shall see what the deal is. But it used to be from the factory crossfire fuel injection. And there's a bunch of different stuff that I just see right off the bat that's a little bit concerning. So, it's a cheapy regulator, and that means that it is the factory fuel pump. And as far as I can tell, being returnless. So, who knows if that's just, even with the regulator, just forcing fuel past the needle and seat, because it runs terribly. And it's got a choke delete, which is good, especially here when it's cold. Oh, there, that's what you want. Wood screw. That is a fine thread screw provision with a wood screw jammed in it. Perfect. Appears to be a small fuel leak. Yeah, great. I don't know if you can tell, but none of these have hose clamps on them, so I assume those are all massive vacuum leaks. Oh, there's no gasket for the air cleaner, which is, again, exactly what you want. We got an oil leak. Pretty significant oil leaks. Yeah, great. Ooh, we do have fancy plug wires, though. And a fancy off-brand parts store distributor, which is really not a problem. Let's see what's going on in the crankcase. Oh, yeah. Perfect. Significantly over full and black. Perfect. What is going on here? The spring is way too tight. Makes it incredibly difficult to press the gas pedal. What else we got going on? Oh, nice. Our coolant hose is smushed. You really don't need to worry about that. You don't need coolant flow. Our belts are, oh, crunchy. We might be needing to get some of them. Great. This looks like a fancy intake, except, you can't tell past all of the tree debris. It's also got a massive exhaust leak, which I have not had the privilege of hunting down yet. So that's cool. Yeah, I guess better get to work. Next thing I noticed, awesome, You really don't need the air cleaner to seal. It's fine. Look what I came across in the back seat. Brand new, never used, drop springs. Yeah, can make it a lowrider. I don't think that's what I'm gonna do though. It looks, I kind of like the, way it is, sort of. So I don't think I want it to be any lower. It's kind of cool. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a massive turd right now, but that doesn't mean it has to be once we've made it run good and the doors open and, made it work kind of like a car should. So, who knows? I think we'll just save them for a rainy day. Next problem has been identified. Induction scoops. They're not really, attached per se, so much as they are, dangling freely. So I might have to look into that. I don't know if it'll pick up in the video, but it is so windy outside that there's dust blowing. There's all sorts of nonsense going on. It's so windy I can't even take my trash out. It's disgusting. So if you hear, clanging and banging and that sort of thing, that's what's going on. All right, so according to the people who own these cars, the third-gen owners, these motors do, in fact, have the lobe for the mechanical fuel pump. So we're going to be making that swap and just unplugging, deleting. I don't know if I'm going to have to take it out of the tank entirely to get it to pull fuel. I'm not sure yet. We shall find out. But then I can get rid of this setup here because I have seen it before. I've worked on it before. And, not that I have a lot of experience getting this setup to work, but I have never seen or been able to get a returnless regulated system to tune right. Sometimes it'll run good, sometimes it won't. The fact is we're reducing 12 psi to 3 to 4 to 5 in that range, and there is no return. So I don't like it. I don't want to do it. It feels hacky to me, which is saying a lot. So, we're gonna plan right now is I'm gonna take all of this out so we can get the intake off, valve covers off, distributor out, all that nonsense, so we can do plugs. Probably the wires are fine, but we'll ohm them out and test them, leave them alone, rebuild and or replace the carburetor if I can get it choke, because I'm not doing the no choke thing. That is nonsense. Replace all the belts, clean that up. I'm gonna leave the air pump in place just because it's so rare to find them on cars. I might leave it. I might take it off and store it in a box that says, third gen Camaro parts do not throw away in case this car, is ever valuable. But I don't have the parts to do the crossfire fuel injection, so I can't put it back to stock unless I have them, and I don't feel like spending however many thousands of dollars people on the internet are going to think that shit's worth. So that is where we stand. Maybe, just maybe, an oil change too. Fix on that. We'll see. I'm trying not to get, too ambitious here. Thankfully for me, this car has not had Freon in it since probably the late 80s, maybe 90s. So that is fantastic. There she goes. So I'm just gonna, stuff a rag in this. Wow, that is not flexible at all. Oh, nice. Anyway, I'm gonna go through all of this. The problem is that you can convert these systems to 134, even if they were R12 originally, but it's not going to work as well because there's differences in how the Freon works that isn't going to work with this condenser, the dryer, all that stuff. So to ever get this AC to really, really work well like it did from the factory, all of that's going to have to get replaced with 134 specific stuff. So, you know, I can put some 134 in it and see. I might have some R12 lying around, but I'd hate to use it because somewhere in this system it leaks, obviously. So, I don't know. We'll see. That might, I mean, not might, that is definitely a bridge to burn another day. It's really unfortunate how incredibly difficult it is to get to all of this. I wouldn't have to take all this off, but to fix the exhaust leak, I'm probably, gonna find a bunch of broke bolts and cracks in the manifolds, and all of that's gonna have to get taken apart. And to get to it, and leaky valve covers, it's all got to come apart. So, yeah, that was loose. Perfect. Yeah, there's a bunch of bolts on here that got to be taken loose. And I'm not going to video it because how boring is that? Here's an, amateur hour tip from someone who's definitely an amateur. But I got plenty of bench space, so I can, lay out all my bolts in the order I took them out and then put them back in that reverse order. But for those people who don't have that luxury, just thread them back where they came out. And then you don't have to worry about it. It's right there. Where did it go? Oh, it went there because, it's here. That is definitely more convenient than getting one of those magnetic trays and throwing them all in there and just kind of praying you remember where they all went. So, I don't know. Some people might like doing it that way. I find that to be incredibly stressful. So, no thank you. This car has an astonishing superpower. The more I look, the more is wrong. Look at these vacuum lines. They are just dissolved. Look at that. Broken, 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 broken. No wonder this thing ran like crap. I mean, it's a wonder it was running at all. This is a 1982, guys, and that's an 18 millimeter. Fantastic. System to be serviced by qualified personnel only. Yeah. Okay, whatever you say. All right. That is disgusting. And it's not helped by the fact that it's so small. So I'm going to pull that out and get it all washed up. And I'm not sure what happened to the old fan here, but whatever it is, it made it about as sharp as a razor blade. So I'm going to take it out before I slice my wrist open and bleed to death on the shop floor here. That just seems like a good plan to me. All right, we're pulled off to this point. So what's there is I'm waiting for the penetrating oil to work on those lines. So hopefully I don't round them out, taking them out. And everything here I'm going to leave. I don't think I'm going to do a water pump. I might, just because I'm in here. I'm going to get the intake all cleaned off, all the wiring out of the way, fold it over here somewhere. I have to get new heater core hoses because we'll replace them. Then I can get the distributor out and intake off, valve covers off, manifolds off, pretty much just disassemble everything, all of it. We might as well just take the motor all the way apart while we're here, right? So this is interesting. Wonder if it's got an overheating problem. There's no thermostat. Completely deleted. So, interesting. I wonder if the tiny radiator and fan clutch that isn't working and gauge that's stuck at 260 might have had something to do with it. Who knows? So, there's that. Get to taking the intake off, or, taking the carburetor off. I need to do a leaves delete here. So, I got the shop vac. I'm sure it'll just work its magic on that. That's how the pros do it right there. Bolt, washer, just because maybe the parts store is too far away. Either way, maybe this is a side of the road repair. Who knows? Anyway, that's gonna have to get addressed. After much torment and many bolts broken, everything on here, it didn't matter how much PV I put on it, just let it sit, soak in. I used the torch, put heat to it, as close as I could get in. Didn't matter. We lost that one. But the problem was that this bolt wasn't there. This one was metric and wrong, and that one was loose. So as you can see from, the soot, none of those were sealing. This was the only one that was tight, and it was the only one that was even sealing at all, because there's no soot, inside of there. So, yeah, well done. That's fantastic. Just perfect. So, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I don't think I have another stud handy. I might. Either way, I'm going to have to get it out and figure out what to do with it from there. So, I'm going to delete this too while I'm here, and I can really put the heat to it. So, fantastic. Well, I'm not sure quite how to put this without being extraordinarily vulgar, but things have escalated. I know why it had an exhaust leak now. And as you can see, we got bolts broken off in the head. We got bolts broken off on the manifold. We had bolts missing. We had bolts loose. This is just some of the carnage. Yeah. Look at that. It wasn't even trying not to leak. So, right off. Absolutely and completely. Yeah, that one's broken, and I'm never getting it out. That one was snapped off here, but it turns out that was fine, because it was already broken here. So, who cares, you snap that off, comes right out of the bolt. It's trash. So now I am taking the heads off to try and get that bolt out. I'm thinking the plan is gonna be take the head off and replace it. No, wait. Maybe not that. Weld a nut to it and see if I can drill it, use an easy out. I don't know yet. We're gonna have to find out. So all of this is gonna come apart. I don't know, at this point I'm almost like, maybe we should just put a 350 in it, or a big block, or a 4.8 LS, something that is less shit than this 305. Well, that escalated quickly. All right, everything that is or was pulled off is cleaned up, painted, and ready to go. I went with the GM Blue. I think the one that the car originally came with was the more turquoise blue, but this is a GM color, and it's all I had. So, seems perfect to me. at this point, I'm pretty well committed to the 305, and I'd say we're, at the turning point of this particular project where I'm going to use the 305, drive it. It's matching numbers to the car, which easiest way to tell that is to come right here and see this number, 137855. And then come around to the VIN right there, 137855. So that is this car's factory motor. So we're gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna get this engine bay washed tomorrow, pressure wash it, get it all cleaned up, clean the surfaces for the head gaskets, and the heads are right here. They are disassembled. I got them disassembled, ready to go over to the machine shop, who is going to rebuild them for me. We're this far, might as well commit and sort out both of my bolt problems. So bolt broke, same place, both head sides. So the one where I said, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I thought was just a missing bolt, turns out I just couldn't see it because of all the carbon, but it was there the whole time. Great. So we'll let the machine shop sort it out from there. No longer my problem, other than paying them all my money. As I'm sure everyone noticed, this is not the same intake that was on there. This is a dual plane. So they had a single plane intake, and I'm sure, everybody knows this, but the single plane intakes are great for high RPM. They, are going to start to make power 4, 5, 6,000 RPM. Well, the little 305 doesn't even rev near that high, and the heads are tapped out at like $4,000, maybe more. So what we need is low end torque, and that is where dual plane intake comes in. So intake was a little bit dirty, it's one I had on the shelf, so I got it cleaned up and painted, and should look all right on there. It also has the spread bore action, so I might run a Quadrajet instead of trying to find an Edelbrock. That is, though, a long way down the road from where we are currently. So, shall we find out? I have shocking news just in. I put the fuel pump push rod in, spun the motor over a couple times, and I can definitively say there is no cam lobe to push it. So that's a write-off of an idea. I already returned the fuel pump and the new plate and just put the old plate back on. Anyway, the motor's all cleaned up. Pressure washed it yesterday. It's ready to reassemble, ready to get all put back together, cleaned up. So I think this is going to be the solution. So the fuel will come in here, and I'm hoping to do the whole thing in hardline, but we'll see if I have the stuff to do it. And then we have the regulator, and that'll tell us what fuel pressure we're pushing. I think that I can use a T-junction, like this one, probably, not barb fitting though, screw together so that we can run the return also. So, or maybe we should go in front of the fuel pressure regulator. I'm not sure. We'll find out. We might not need it because we're only dropping, 8 psi, 7 psi, 6 psi, who knows. We don't have to reduce it that much is the point. So hopefully this fancified setup will work to do that. And it's good because it's all parts I had lying around. So cheap and excellent, and probably not gonna leak at all. All right, there's the motor all cleaned up and ready to go back together. The last thing I'm gonna do here is pull each one of the lifters out and look at it and make sure the cam's not going flat, because this is about the only opportunity I'm gonna have to change that. As you can see, I got everything pressure washed in here. I taped up the top of the motor with some fancy water-resistant tape, and that did pretty good. And then I just blew it out and hosed it down in WD-40 just in case any moisture got in there. I don't think any did, but, you know, better be safe than sorry. And then I taped it up again and spritzed the little rebuild in a can right there so that if I ever decided to put this on Craigslist, I could say fully 100% rebuilt 383 massive big block superpower drag race ready, you know, as you do when you post stuff on Craigslist. But, you know, people could look if I hadn't painted that and see that, you know, it isn't really rebuilt. You know, I gotta keep that to myself. So there you go. Dishonesty is ready. Honestly, you know, you say that as a joke, but anyone who ever did that, you know, that kind of makes you a bad person. This car will never get sold, so it's fine to clean it up a little bit. It'll look really good with the water pump on there, and it saves me the trouble of actually having to pull the motor out and wash it. And, you know, it'll look fine. So hopefully that'll be all right. All right, I'm waiting on heads. I got the valve stem seals and the little O-rings that fit on the valves over there, and the bolts are liberated. So TIG welded them with some stainless steel rod and then was able to heat the heads and get vice grips and take them out. So it was incredibly tight, but it's done now, so fantastic. Yeah, pretty much just that simple. Do it at home in your garage. I don't think they could have come out with an ease out either. You know, they're so tight in there. So anyway, this is for the thermostat. Something I always like to do is drill a little hole in there because a lot of these thermostats don't come with them. They used to come with a little bleed hole, but none of the new ones do. And air can get trapped underneath there and the water won't come up and it's stuck right here and it won't bleed. So, you know, your thermostat won't open and you get some overheating action. So, best way to solve that, little hole in your thermostat. I thought this was a bit crazy, so might as well make it into the video. This carburetor's been sitting less than a year since it had fresh fuel in it. That is what ethanol does. Turns into this fine chalk powder that gums up everything. So, that's going to be fun. Get that rebuilt. All that blown out of there, and hopefully she'll still run okay. But, crazy. Less than a year. Alright, heads are back. Totally rebuilt. And 100% bolt free. I got them painted up, ready to go in the car. The last thing I had to do, which probably should have done before I painted, but oh well, was clean up all the holes from the rust. So run the tap through them real quick, and then they'll be ready to go on the car. Alright, heads are in, torque down, got new head bolts, new head gaskets, ready to go. I got the rocker arms in, push rods in, they're all cleaned up. I put them each one back where it went before, you know. It's debate on whether or not that matters, but the running theme is I'm not qualified to say, so that's how I did it. Do it how you want. So it's ready for valve lashing, which is, you know, the most exciting part. All right, here's where we stand. Almost done, other than heater core hoses, radiator, front accessories, carburetor, fuel lines. And add oil and zinc, and it is ready to rock. So, home stretch. Alright, that's it. It's back together. Other than the AC lines, which I need to clean up and replace the O-rings on, here it is, all cleaned up and ready to go. So, I don't know, it's kind of interesting deal just because this is a lot of work to put into a motor that isn't worth it in terms of horsepower, but everybody deletes these 305s, and I get it. I really do. I understand throwing it away and getting something better because it's so cheap to do something easier, but I mean, sometimes, especially on something like that, it's good to keep things at least somewhat close to factory, even though I can't have fuel injection and all that other stuff this would have come with. I mean, at least we can get relatively close and keep the factory motor, and then someday if everybody or somebody wanted to put it back the way it was, they certainly could. So they couldn't do this if I took this motor to the scrapyard. So, you know, that's kind of where we stand right now. I've been playing with the fuel regulator, trying to get more fuel pressure. Want it to be about 6, so we'll see how that goes. I got the timing set, and it's running okay. It seems a little lean, which is why I'm playing with that. The fuel pressure's a little bit low, so then I can richen the idle circuit up a bit. But other than that, it sounds pretty good. And there you go, it runs. Thanks to the open headers, we got a little popping on diesel, but that's okay. That should get sorted out as soon as the muffler gets put on there. As I understand it, the reason why it does that is because the headers don't provide enough back pressure, so yeah, we're just gonna not worry about that right now. But more importantly, there it is, back together. It had no transmission go make it happen or juice stuff in it at all. Well, I mean, it might have had some, but not enough to register on the dipstick. So, perfect. You don't really need that. I mean, it's fine. Anyway. So I added some of that, and now I even replaced the blower motor. So now we have all sorts of blow action. That doesn't sound right. Anyway, we got stuff going on in the cab that probably has nothing to do with blowing. Moving on. So that's where we stand. I'm gonna fix the... I gotta find an air cleaner. That's the other part I have not done yet. Obviously, it does not have one on there because this one is wasted. This was the one that it came with. Look at that. How... I knew it didn't have a gasket on the carburetor in between here. It was just sucking in whatever from outside, all the dirt that words escape me, really. You got orange RTV, which was all over the car. Orange RTV plugging that up. It's been welded on. Look at that. Somebody's welded on it. It's been on fire at one point. It's somehow not even remotely close to round. The other problem is that this doesn't even fit. So it was obviously leaking. It's also disgusting, as well as being way too big. It looks like somebody's been in here with a grinder and a welder. And orange RTV. I have no idea. The problem is I need one that's this shallow, or else it's not going to clear under the hood, because my intake is taller than it was before now anyway, so that's going to have to get sorted. So we still need an air cleaner that sits low. I thought about going with a factory-ish style one like that one, but I don't know, I'm thinking, nah. I'd really like one kind of similar to this one where the top is breathable, so that if I ever did get this functioning again, it actually could provide cold air at full throttle. So I don't know if that actually would work. All I'd have to do is reconnect the delete on wires. But first I have to fix that, which is a problem for probably not today. that's it. The end of the air cleaner saga. I got it. It's in. And I think we're done. Last thing to check is that the hood closes, but it worked with the other one, and this is the same setup other than the intake, so fingers crossed, you know. Done. The other thing was I got exhaust on it, so it's got exhaust all the way back. It's hard to see, but it looks pretty good, so that's done. It sounds all right. I'll fire it up here in a second. Right now I got it up on jack stands because I was doing brakes, because driving it back from the exhaust shop, it felt like the brake pedal was running mashed potatoes that had been hit by a semi-truck. So, yeah, not great. The rear calipers weren't engaging. All 4 rotors were warped. The front pads were worn uneven and were full of air and some of the dirtiest, muddiest, grossest fluid I've ever encountered. And the rears had never been off, probably ever, I don't think. And that was that. So, same story as before, whereas, you know, top of the motor had been messed with poorly. Front brakes had been messed with poorly. The rears never ever been touched. Bottom of the motor never ever been touched. So, you know, that's just the story of this life. Or the story of this car's life. Partial preventative maintenance that was poorly done, and a whole lot of neglect for the rest of it. So, next up is fix the last couple electrical gremlins and maybe do AC lines so that they can work. And then fix the parking brake, and I've already started getting in interior parts, so need to put them on the shelf here in a second, but got new lock pieces, so we'll shine them up, and I got a bunch more parts coming, so should hopefully be making this car pretty nice cosmetically next, now that it'll be functioning fully mechanically. So, in the particular time frame of where we're at as far as this project, this really should be in part 2, but it seemed like a good conclusion to part 1 of the Camaro video. As you can see, I've done a bunch of different stuff, which will be in video part 2, but the exhaust has been done, so that's why I wanted to include this. So, it's all quiet now.